All right, welcome, and we will go ahead and begin. It is 3:30 today, and this is day three, our third session of this webinar series for principals. And on days one and two, we looked at different types of strategies, and then today we're going to look at networking new teachers and also look at some very valuable resources that are going to be shared. So just quickly to review the webinar format, it is a 1 hour hard stop. It might not, we might not even be together a full hour. You get to decide your level of participation. You can certainly use chat if you want. You can unmute and ask a question or interject. You're totally welcome to do that as a participant, or you can be passive. That is fine as well. If you just have this up in the background, that is you're welcome to participate in at whatever level that you choose. And if you are watching this recording, then if you have questions, if something comes to mind and you have some questions about it, then please don't hesitate to send me an email or give me a call or text, and I'm glad to connect with you. All right, so revisiting what we've seen from sessions one and two. So just revisiting this idea of phases of first year teachers' attitudes towards teaching and remembering that this is not attitudes towards their colleagues or students. This is their attitudes towards the profession. And this is from the New Teacher Center. And this is a natural occurrence in new teachers that they have found over, decades of research that took place that showed this was happening with the attitudes towards teaching. So notice that right now, from the end of September through February, this is just a really critical time for support for new teachers, especially. And so that's what we're really trying to push on. So, what are some ways that we can reduce that trough of disillusionment and really push those teachers and accelerate them towards rejuvenation that they typically don't experience until March? So, how can we push on that a little bit more and support them and empower them to be successful in this endeavor that they've chosen? So again, on day one, we looked at low intensity supports. So these are those low hanging fruit, if you will. Um, we talked about different types of formal orientation for new teachers. There's a whole myriad of levels of mentorship that was introduced in day one session. We also talked about adjusting those working conditions. What is it that you can lift as the principal? What can you help to lift off a new teacher's plate, such as planning? How might others perform that task for that teacher or with that collaboratively with that teacher, so that they can spend more time on that instructional piece. And so that was day one, what we talked about. And then yesterday, during our hour together, we talked about those high intensity strategies. Now, this is the reason why it's called high intensity, is because it usually requires a little more work. It can sometimes have some type of a cost to it attached, but it might require additional training from either the principal, the other leaders in the school, or the mentors, for example. And yesterday we really honed in on what it looks like to narrow that focus for growth for new teachers. So in Kentucky, and this is just using Kentucky as an example, in Kentucky, every teacher is held to the Kentucky Framework for Teaching, and there are 22 different components in that framework. And so when we talked about narrowing that focus for growth, we talked about how might a school or district limit those numbers of components that a new teacher is focusing on. And then we spent some time talking about, calibrating and how do you develop a shared understanding of effective teaching? And it is more than just conversations. So we watched a video about learning walks and how you might incorporate those in your building. And then thirdly, we really talked about providing effective feedback, provided some resources for that as well, and how that effective feedback is aligned with the goal. And then today, we are going to really hone in on purposeful networking for new teachers and high quality resources that are available to you at no cost. At the end of our session, you'll be invited to move to action, to begin thinking about and reflecting upon all three sessions and think about what happens next. So I'm really excited. We have a special guest with us here today, Dana Lee Thomas. Amelia was going to be here with us, and then she got caught up at work and was unable to join. But we're so happy to have Dana here with us. These two wonderful women have created a website called Kentucky Scent. Hopefully, you already know about this website and also their Twitter chat that they host. But at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dana. And Dana, I'm excited for you to share the website and talk a little bit also just about yourselves and how did this all come to being? Give me just one moment and let me stop sharing, Dana, and let you
Okay,
go ahead and pull up your screen.
absolutely. So, as Jenny said, my name is Dana Lee Thomas. I am an educator in Kentucky. In fact, I am instructional supervisor, new to my role this year. I've spent the last 25 years working both in the classroom and as an instructional coach. Sorry about my email. Um, so, Kentucky Scent came to be around 2017, 18. Amelia Brown and I were into a group called Kentucky Hope Street Fellowship. And around that time, we had a lot of things going on with our state funding. And it was decided that the KTIP program would not be funded. And we all know that every state, most states have a support program that mentors and builds new teachers. So through my personal experience, I had an amazing KTIP experience. I had supportive teachers that I worked with, and they truly helped me grow. So it was kind of disheartening for me to see that program go away. So Amelia and I, being passionate educators, and we thought, okay, we're going to start our own group that will support and elevate new teachers in Kentucky. So that's how Kentucky Scent came to be. And we started out, we were going to do webinars and we were going to connect people across the state. And with everything, there is trial and error. And we found that, you know what, if we could just be a hub of information, that's a great support to new teachers as well. So we built our website, and on your screen, you see the website. I'm going to kind of hide us there and move that over. We've got several aspects to our website. We started out doing what's called Kentucky Scent Sparklers. So we ask teachers across Kentucky, and our main venue of communication is via Twitter. So we ask teachers throughout the year, hey, do you have a new teacher that's just really rocking it this year that you think needs a little recognition? So that's where you see the Kentucky Scent Sparkler. We post it on YouTube. We kind of just, share it out. Accolades are always welcome when somebody's doing a great job and needs to be recognized. So throughout the rest of our website, you will see different parts that we feel are good for new teachers to know about.
Hey,
Uh,
listen, before you move to the next
yes.
section, because I was going to. So this section, this Kentucky Scent Sparkler, is so important because one of the things that we've been talking about in the last two sessions that we've had in support and ways that principals can support new teachers is that, the research has shown, and also just in communicating with new teachers, is that during this time especially, like when I say this time of the year, like as we're
Mhm.
moving into October, teachers are unsure, especially brand new teachers, beginning teachers, if they're doing a good job. They're unsure what it looks like to do a good job. Again, they're kind of slipping into that disillusionment into the profession. So if they can come to this site and see some of these other Kentucky sparklers, brand new teachers, it is just this is bigger than just notification. I mean, it really can spark interest and spark a person to say, I want to be on this page. I want to be great. So it sparks that efficacy that I think is so important. So I didn't want you to
Oh,
navigate away from this page without me
absolutely, Jenny.
interjecting.
Actually, I would like to add to that. You just showed the faces of the first year of teaching. there are times, and we're rolling into that phase where teachers and new teachers are beginning to feel a little overwhelmed and discouraged. So I think having a colleague or an administrator, anyone to give you a big shout out would help new teachers, kind of move out of those phases of discouragement and feeling overwhelmed. So if we look at our most recent sparkler, and we are going to open up our nominations again, we're just giving it a little time to get into the school year. We're at the end of September. So, you know, um, new teachers are still kind of honing in on procedures and content. So we are going to open those nominations up again. But if we look at Skylar Carr's quote, in 23 years of teaching, I have never seen a first year teacher so wise in their relationships with students. Shyla is a blessing to our school, our team, and our community. If you are that young new teacher, hearing those words said about you is it's inspiring, it's motivational, it's enough to move you out of that phase of discouragement or being overwhelmed to, hey, let's put our boots back on and drive through the rest of this school year. So thank
Exactly. Not
you.
not just for this year, but like for years moving forward, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's
Yes.
something I used to keep those notes in a folder that I had over the 12 years that I spent in the classroom as a classroom teacher. And something like this is certainly something that
Mhm.
I would pull out of that folder, digital or otherwise, to remind myself of my why.
I too still have those positive notes from my administrators because it's a good way to encourage the heart.
Yep, absolutely.
So if we look at the other tabs, we try to focus in on areas of education that not just new teachers need additional information about, but seasoned and even veteran teachers. So even though the purpose of our website is for new teachers, it's a good hub for all educators to come and just peruse and look for additional resources. So we have a tab on student engagement, exceptional learners, and I'll click on these some more in just a second. Our curriculum and instruction tab is probably the largest, and I'll show you how to navigate that in just a second. Simply because it houses all curriculum areas and instructional strategies that are relevant in your first year of teaching as well as other years. Social emotional learning, cultural competency, teacher self-care, career and tech ed, non-traditional instruction. Just we added that, of course, during the pandemic, ways that can help with virtual and in-person learning, and then teacher support. So I'm going to go to the curriculum and instruction tab first. It was a little overwhelming, and to add, Amelia and I, it's a shared responsibility with this website. We each take some time to update and add to it weekly, in addition to our regular education roles where we live. So sometimes it may take a while for things to get updated, and others, you may get a lot of updates in one week. So it's definitely a place that a hub you want to check in and out of. So if we look at curriculum and instruction, there is a drop down menu here where you can focus in on if you're just interested in reading and writing resources, science and social studies, instructional strategies, book recommendations. We love our books, okay? We love reading books. We love not necessarily reviewing, but recommending books that are going to help in any year of teaching.
Sure, sure.
So I'm going to click on instructional strategies real quick. We are constantly via Twitter, via all other social media and internet avenues, we are constantly searching for instructional strategies that work. So we've tried to just highlight, essential ones here. Deeper learning is a big initiative right now in Kentucky. The science of reading, the work of John Hattie Marzano. You just see little things that can be shared, project-based learning. I work particularly with a college near where I work, a small university. A lot of times our website is used within their university courses to learn about instructional strategies and content area specials as well. We have our tab on student engagement, where again, we're just housing websites that you can go to and learn about student engagement strategies, as well as articles to consider and book recommendations. You're always going to see book recommendations.
Awesome.
And I'll just show you another tab or so. Teacher self-care we know is crucial. Teaching can be a stressful yet rewarding career. So we've just added some ways that lots of videos, you can take care of you, but still be an effective educator at the same time.
And that's really important. I'm sorry, Dana. I was just going to
No,
say,
please
interject.
feel free to
That is
interject.
that is just so important, right now and any time. But again, if we're wanting to lessen the depth of that trough right now, if we can push teachers towards some of those self-care um, activities and videos and ways to become rejuvenated again, I think that it will serve itself in the long run, because we're also pushing on retention of these teachers, not just for this year but moving forward. Okay, we'll go on to your teacher
You're
support.
fine. Well, I think it's very important to add on to that. Teacher self-care, it's important to find a balance, because
Right.
in that, myself and many other educators, the work's always going to be there. So you kind of have to know when can I cut it off for the day, and when do I need to just take care of me.
Exactly.
So one of our last tabs is teacher support. We are quite fortunate in the state of Kentucky to have many great support systems across the state, beginning with our Kentucky Education Cooperatives. So we think it's really important for you to know where your Kentucky co-op is and what they have available. So you'll see links there. We have great communications and publications through our Kentucky Teacher. We are online partners with Go Teach Kentucky, our Kentucky Department of Education initiative to help support new teachers. And then we've reached out and found other resources that can help support as well, including Sanford Inspire and TeacherTube, and CTL is also a Kentucky initiatives and National Board Certification. So as I said, we also work with colleges and universities to help with some of the pre-service teacher resources. So you'll see the Educators Rising program there as well. And then Miss Amelia and I. So that's just a little bit about Kentucky Sent. As I stated before, we are continually adding content to our website. And I think we just need to focus on supporting people in one of the, in my opinion, greatest careers there is out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I wondered also, I noticed on your homepage that there's also like a Twitter feed that you can scroll through. Are
Yes.
there times when you involve new teachers in like Twitter chats, or do you participate in some Twitter chats that maybe the principals and new teachers need to know about?
We have not done a chat lately, actually in a while, because Millie and I both work full-time jobs. This is kind of just a passion project for us on the side.
Sure. Sure.
We do communicate through direct messaging on Twitter, where we have done that in the past with administrators and college professors and new teachers. So that is a great way to communicate with us. We do use the hashtag new teacher support as kind of ours. So you'll see us tagged in a lot of things with just new teacher support or new Kentucky teachers. But we love our Twitter feeds and learning and growing as a education community through social media, particularly Twitter.
Absolutely, because it's so important for new teachers to find ways to connect
Absolutely.
with not only other teachers, but with other new teachers, so that they can share some commonalities and experiences. And, it just helps to develop them as
Absolutely.
teachers, as educators as well. So
No, we have a common saying in my district, some of your best professional learning comes from the teacher next door. In this case, some of your best professional learning comes from the teacher that's a tweet or a message away. So building that professional learning network is crucial because the more you
Exactly.
know, the more you're going to grow.
Exactly. Gosh, I'm just so thankful that you were able to join us here today, and what a wonderful resource, bundle of resources that I think that we can direct new teachers to. And if principals know about it, then they can help to share those resources with their new teachers and ways to connect. And so we'll just continue to visit that website. And again, just thanks for making us aware, Dana.
You're welcome. I wish I could stick around and learn more, but I have another meeting in just a minute or two. So thank you,
Absolutely.
Jenny, for having us. And I know Amelia sends her best wishes as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much
Thank
again for being
you.
here.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and move forward. Um, and one of the things that, after listening to Dana share all of those resources, and before we, get into some more things about networking, I did want to talk about like the difference in a webinar, which is what you're experiencing now, and versus a network participation opportunity. So, in a webinar, we know that it's impersonal, but informative. That another good thing about that is that it's an asynchronous opt-in. So many of you have chosen to wait and watch the recorded version of this, and feel like that you're not missing out on anything because we're not in a webinar, we're not using breakout spaces. And so you're still being able to fully gain the information that everyone who attended in person was able to do as well. There is in a webinar a call to action at the end, like that push for moving forward, but it's totally your own call to action. um, it's you're motivated internally and there's no one necessarily going to follow up on that. Now, versus a network experience or networking experience, and that's quite honestly where I am most familiar facilitating. So this is my actual first time in facilitating this webinar type of experience, which is totally different than facilitating network learning together and professional learning. So when your teachers or you as leaders are involved in a network, then it becomes personalized and informative. You have active participation in small and large groups. You get to know others within the network. There's feedback on next steps. So perhaps you're with a small group and talking about what you're planning to do next, and you're going to get feedback in that small group from others who are participating, who are making similar plans. There's brainstorming with others, external and internal motivators, people checking up to see, and then motivating, and sources being sources of accountability for moving forward. So just wanting to make sure and make a definite difference in this experience in a webinar and what we're promoting for teachers and for principals to experience as a professional learning through a network and coaching, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So thinking about that and like the power of networks and folks learning together develops a sense of connectedness, and that's been mentioned both yesterday and today as something that can be a low-hanging fruit, as well as something that you might have to be a little more intentional about so that it's the most meaningful experience that it can be on, like, who you're going to connect together. It also fosters growth mindset, and we saw that yesterday in the video that we watched, on the lesson learning walk. And they talked those who experienced that, they talked about how they enjoyed hearing how other teachers were going to take what they had learned from that experience from watching another teacher, and how that was going to transform their own teaching, both new and experienced teachers. So if new teachers get to hear others showing a growth mindset that they don't they don't have it all known yet. There's still room to learn. That that helps to foster in them, in the new teachers, this growth mindset. And we know, those of us who have been in the classroom for years, um, that it's very difficult to do the job without, and to make it new each year without having a growth mindset. So ways that we as leaders, as principals, that we can foster that is important. And a network is one of those ways. So it definitely provides opportunities for learning, in a network setting. Even as she said, even if new teachers or principals participate in Twitter chats, if that's something um, that's doable, that's something that they can learn from, then that's certainly an opportunity for learning. In small and large groups within networks, that's just another way that you can deepen their understanding. Opportunities for sharing their own learning. So for new teachers, this is also especially important because that's something that we talked about if we go back to day one, session one, where teachers need to feel empowered. They need to have those early wins. So if they've experienced a win, an early win, and can then share that with others, once again, we're building in that confidence that's needed for growth and retention. And then another power of networks is that folks get to opt in. And there's lots of choices. So there's choice as far as choice of participating, and then there are so many different types of networking options that the choices are available and are huge and are very, very many. And another power of a network is that it can be empowering to teachers themselves, especially new teachers, to feel like that, okay, I've heard some ideas that others are doing, and now I'm going to build on that idea, do something a little tweak it myself, and try that on my own. So they're learning on their own and empowering themselves to, again, think about how might they move towards their own growth trajectory. So some examples of networks to join, and again, this is part of that webinar part, is just information giving. So for you as school leaders, if you're a principal or assistant principal or someone who supports principals and or assistant principals, or if you're an aspiring principal, then I encourage you to join. And if you're in Kentucky, I encourage you to join the Principal Partnership Project, or P3, at KDE. I was a founding member of that group that joined in at KDE, and now, 6 years into that, they've grown. They provide all of the initial certified evaluation training. But if you join P3, there's no cost to do that. So that's one of those low hanging fruits. There's nothing, no hoops to jump through. Um, you opt in for any participation, and it is, like I said, just in Kentucky for Kentucky educators and leaders. And that would be for principals. And they do also sometimes have strands within, like their ed camp, for example, for supporting new teachers. So that's just another avenue for you to find ways to support new teachers, is through that principal network. There's also, and this, Dana was talking about this, and on her website, which, by the way, remember that you will get this slide deck, which will have all of the links that we talk about, and we'll also link to the website that Dana was sharing. And on that website, she had links to all of the cooperatives. So no matter where you are, and again, this is in Kentucky, if you're joining us from Kentucky, and what I have found in going to other where convenings where there are multiple states there involved and who support principals, and in other states as well, that there are some type of regional cooperatives, or they might be called a service center perhaps in your state, but a place. Find out where those places are, those sources of information that your district has likely already joined, and that you can benefit from the services that they provide. So these are the ones that we have in Kentucky: Central Kentucky Educational Cooperative, the Green River Regional Educational Cooperative, KEDC, which is located in Ashland, Kentucky. They also have a Lexington location. KVEC is in far eastern Kentucky. And KCES is in northern Kentucky, of our northern part of our state. OVEC is the Ohio Valley Educational Cooperative, and that is in Shelbyville. And Southeast South Central is in London, Kentucky. WKEC is far west Kentucky, so and it serves those regions there. So if you don't already know which of these educational co-ops that your district is a part of, then certainly ask someone, whoever your supervisor is, ask them and find out what they have to offer for new teachers. Many times they will have, because your district already pays dues to be a part of that, so there might be some things that your new teachers can participate in, networking, that it would be a minimal fee for them to join. Twitter chats, like I said earlier, there's all kinds of Twitter chats that you can search for, to be a part of. There's Kentucky Leaders for school leaders, and there's new hashtag new teacher support. If you search that, then you can find other Twitter chats that go along with that. There are Facebook groups for you to consider. Um, and I will talk a little bit in just a few minutes about our Lead Forward Leadership Academy. So that is a network that is not just for Kentucky leaders. It's for anyone inside the United States, as well as inside the contiguous United States, as well as Hawaii and Alaska can be a part of that. And it also involves individual coaching, and as much individual coaching or as little as you might want. So we'll talk a little bit more about that Lead Forward Leadership Academy if you think that that might be something that might interest you. And we are working on developing right now a Lead Forward New Teacher Academy. So that is coming soon. And again, just as Dana was saying, knowing that a lot of states, and Kentucky being one of them, that does not offer uh, a funded source of support for new teachers, then why don't we think about what that might look like for new teachers to be in a new teacher academy where we can align them with other new teachers who are in the same grade level or the same subject matter, or maybe working towards the same professional growth goals. So more information about that will be coming soon. And since you've joined us today, or if you have registered for this event and you're listening to this recording, you will get information from us as well about that. Just a few minutes to make sure that you are aware of the academy. And again, this would be for those principals, aspiring principals, assistant principals, or principals, or excuse me, those who support, like principal supervisors, those who support principals can be a part of the academy. And every person who supports those who join the academy have been principals and have also supported principals in the past and have a lot of experience in true coaching, and not just advice giving or mentorship really, but it's more about coaching to empower the leader. Because even though folks like me have been in the principal's role, we have not been in your principal's role. So it's really more about tapping into your knowledge base and what questions might the coach ask for you to figure out what might be your next steps and to act more of that thought partner. So anyway, you might have some interest and want to look into what it would look like to join the academy. If your school or district has Title II funding for professional learning, they can use those funds as well to pay for your experience as part of this group. And again, so we're creating something that has one-to-one coaching, whether it be over the phone, through Zoom, face to face, at their building, however you might want to communicate, that is what we can do. There's also opportunities for monthly online learning if you want to be a part of that. There's up to 3 on-site sessions that are included in the cost. Um, there's networking to learn. So if you have a specific area that you're wanting to hone in on this year for your growth between now and next October, it is a year-long membership. You can opt in anytime, and you're there from October, November to November, however it works to be a full year. But there's opportunities for you to network with others who are also working towards similar goals. Um, and we work with you and your supervisor if you choose for thinking about goal setting and action planning. So that's all part of the Lead Forward, the Academy, that if you choose to be a part of that, I just wanted to make sure that you knew that that was something that's available. Okay, so thinking about supporting new teachers, and right now, when I have conversations with principals, um, they do talk about that they have more new teachers in their building now than they ever have in the past. That there's been such, for whatever reason, that there've just been a lot of openings, and so they're having, and these new teachers many times, not many times, but sometimes have not even gone through student teaching. So the new teachers themselves are at different spots in their learning. So thinking about over what we've talked about in these 3 days that we've had together, all of that has been geared towards, okay, we know that all new teachers go through these phases of anticipation, feeling like they're so excited about their new classroom. And then once they're in that role, and then there's so many deadlines, and there's parent meetings, and there's so many things that fall on them, that then they run into survival mode, and they're becoming more and more dissatisfied with the profession as time moves forward. And we're finding now that it's even becoming accelerated into that. And then moving into that disillusionment. So, how might these strategies help to reduce that trough and push these new teachers towards rejuvenation, because we want to grow them and we want to keep them. We want to retain our best and our brightest. So, now is the time to reflect a plan. So, now that you have spent time in all 3 of the sessions, and so these are the 3 sessions. So we had day 1 was around low intensity, those low hanging fruit. What is it you're currently doing that maybe you might tweak to to raise the effectiveness, because even low intensity options can yield high results, as we talked about in day 1. And then in day 2 we moved to, okay, or maybe you're ready. Maybe you've done these things in the low intensity format and you're ready. Okay, we've really got to hone in and think about what does it look like for our new teachers, because they are overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed with all of the parts of the framework. They're not familiar with the framework. So how is it that we might make it more meaningful to them, the language that's there within that framework, the criteria for their own success? How can we take that and narrow the focus for growth? And that was the whole point of yesterday. And we spent a lot of time looking at and seeing exactly what that can look like, looking at one component from domain 1 from planning, looking at how that feeds into one component from classroom environment, and to another one component from instruction, and one component in professionalism, which was around that teacher reflection piece. And how even just looking at those 4 components melded together, that provides that opportunity for those quick wins. And if teachers are doing those 4 things really well, then they're ready to move on to the next component, whatever that might be, when you have those coaching conversations with them. So anyway, that's what we talked about yesterday, and then developing that shared understanding from that framework of what effective teaching looks like, and providing that for you as the leader. This again is what makes it high intensity, is because many times it can involve training This is one of our big training pieces in the academy, is really honing in on that effective feedback and coaching conversations, not only for evaluation, but just coaching in general, just what it looks like for principals to wear the coaching hat more often than not. And then today, we really wanted to bring to mind, before we began planning, is the power of networks and how that can touch base on what we talked about in days one and day two of teachers needing a sense of belongingness, especially now that they need to feel connected to the school, to the district, and to the community. So are there some networks in-house that you could create or have teachers be a part of? Are there times when you, as the principal, are there times when you're just meeting with your new teachers in your building and having conversations about their needs? On day one, we shared a resource that was a temperature check that's to be used weekly from the first day of school, um, all the way through Christmas break. And it's a way to gauge, where are these new teachers on their journey of how they feel about the profession, and how can I support them? Okay. So now that you've kind of have all of these things put together from the 3 days, it's time to move into action. So as you're thinking about this, what is one tool or idea that you want to be sure and take back with you when you're thinking about supporting your new teachers? And what problem or challenge will this address specifically? And how will you know? Like, what will you be looking for or listening for to know that this tool or idea is meeting that challenge? With whom might you need to share this idea or tool? So are there others you need to bring to the table? As a principal, if you are the principal listening to this, you cannot and you're not charged to do it alone. So the whole idea is, how can you help to distribute that leadership to support new teachers? What would it look like in your school to distribute the leadership, to distribute decision making around leadership for supporting new teachers? How might that look? I don't know. You have the ideas, but I would love to be a thought partner with you in that if it's something that you're interested in. What what specifically do you want this person or group to do with it? So once you figure out who to share it with, maybe it is your teacher teams that you have as mentor teachers in your building, and maybe we want to meet with them to talk about, okay, here's some strategies that I learned in these 3 sessions. Um, which what's a good starting place for us with our context? What is the first milestone? So these are just all these reflection questions for you to be thinking about. What is the first milestone that you want to see? For example, is it that beginning teachers and mentors are developing a focused approach to teaching and observing by limiting the number of components that are being observed, and that they're focusing in on themselves in their classroom? I don't know. That's one example. What are 2 or 3 actions that you can take from listening to this webinar series? What are 2 or 3 actions that you can take to get the ball rolling, to start the inertia? And being mindful and having that preparedness to think, well, what obstacles might be in the way? What might occur? And being prepared for those. And then lastly, once you have ideas about the first steps to take, how you're going to get the ball rolling, who else to bring to the table to have these continued conversations about for supporting our beginning teachers in our building, and it's more than a 1 year support, then thinking now, building it backwards. So think, okay, so 3 months from now, what are our milestones? Where do we want to be in 3 months? Okay, if we want to be there in 3 months, then where do we want to be 2 months from now? And then 30 days out, 1 month from now. So that backwards design and planning. So I'm hoping that these 3 sessions have given you some information to chew on, some things to maybe talk about with your colleagues at your school or at your district, to think about, okay, this is what we're doing and this is what we'll continue to do well as far as supporting new teachers, but what other things can we try? Where are we missing the mark for supporting these new teachers? Because we don't want to lose them. Okay. Our next webinar series for principals is going to be feedback that feeds forward, and we're going to look at some specific protocols. Day one is going to be centered around professional growth planning conversations. So really and intentionally helping not only new teachers, but all teachers. What does it look like to have those kinds of conversations where professional growth planning is the plan for growth for the year, and having that focused on how does that result in student learning. So we'll talk about that on day one. Day two, reflect those reflection conversations. What do those look like? Post-observation conferencing, for example, is one example of a reflection conversation. And then day three, we'll spend some time really looking at planning for difficult conversations. And those might be those difficult conversations. What's meant by that is those conversations that typically involve emotions for one or more parties in the conversation. So when emotions are involved, then there are some things that coaches, leaders can do specifically that are research based, psychology proven, some strategies, some tools for you to have in your toolbox so that again the intentionality is to empower the other people, is to empower the person that you're having the conversation with to come to a solution and for you to come to solutions together. So that's what we're going to do in those 3 days. I hope you can make it and be there. I'll send you an invitation if you haven't already signed up for that. But thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to support you. I would love to hear from you and to support you in other ways. If there's another series that you would like to see, then just be sure and let us know. And if you could, if you are here and you want to use the chat to ask any questions, and I'll also stick around here to talk with anyone who might have some questions or some comments before we go as well. If not, thank you again. Those of you who are joining on your own time asynchronously, thanks so much for staying with us to the end, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much.